In over 3 decades, I've learned that truly great car dealerships are only great because of one thing: leadership. So I'm sitting down with the great men and women inspiring automotive on TimTalks, automotive leadership and beyond. Welcome, everyone, for yet another episode of TimTalks. I'm giggling a little bit, maybe a little giddy today. I have on our show, TimTalks, Leadership and Beyond, one of my favorite people. Although we don't talk every day and compare notes, we do talk a lot. I have a lot of respect for this human being. In fact, what you soon will find out, TimTalk listeners, is that if Dos Equis brings that commercial back, the most interesting man in America, it's probably going to be the one and only David Spisak. David, welcome to TimTalks, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Tim, and support anything that you're doing. You bring a lot of good into this world, so I'm happy to do it.
Brother, I love you. I appreciate you saying that. But, I don't even know where to start. This is true. It is a mess. So this is a true statement. So if you're listening to the smooth sounds that is David Spisak's voice, we were at a conference together a year or so ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And I said, Dave, I have a really stressful, 100% true. I have a really stressful job, people everywhere, things burning down, things coming up, craziness, would you speak into my phone? And so I could just listen to that sometimes when I'm tired. And sure enough, David was so gracious. You're going to think we're really weird. I'm really weird now, but said, he spoke into the phone and the recording was, Tim, you've worked hard today. And went on and on and on. It was just the greatest thing. And I used it. And somehow I had an iCloud issue. So you're going to have to record another one of those, David.
The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that Tim he didn't want to pony up the $7 a month for a Calm app. And so he was willing to use me as a cheap alternative. So I think you called your own voicemail. And I left a voicemail just talking about the wonderful guy that you are. Yeah. And just, just reminding you to take a moment and just remember who you are and all the good things you do in this world. Take the time to breathe, Tim. And by the way, speaking of breathing, you just became a grandfather.
I just became a grandfather. I sure did. And
congratulations. And what is the young lady or young lad's name?
The young lady, my little granddaughter, is Charlotte Grace. Good old Southern name, Charlotte Grace. We're going to call her Charlie for short. So love that thing more than anything. If I could just keep squeezing her really hard, that's my only problem.
You could be arrested for that, so be careful. Don't do that when you're inebriated. Well, congratulations. There's nothing more important. You know that. There's nothing more important. I think we all know that inherently, obviously, we always hear about the why. Why do we do what we do? Why does it matter? There's a great book by Marcus Buckingham, Now Discover Your Strengths, First Break All the Rules, those books. And one of the things in there is what I'm doing is the company I'm working for, does it have a purpose? And I think that oftentimes we forget about that. So I appreciate you doing this because leadership matters. Obviously our families matter. Why we do this matters. So I'm just happy to be here. Ask away.
Awesome. So let's start. And look, we were talking before this, and I was actually talking to Patrick Abad yesterday, buying a car.
One of my favorite people,
as a matter of fact, are helping. And he was like, David Spisak is literally one of my favorite people. And he's like, did you know he was a comedian? I'm like, no. He's like, did you know he played the guitar? I said, no. So he's like, that is one of my favorite humans. So not only are you a funny man and a comedian and have a great personality and musically talented, but, as far as the automotive space, you've done something that I don't know has ever been done before. So let's, and again, I know I tell people all the time, we're going to have people listen to this podcast, and it depends on, some people wake up victorious, and some people wake up a victim, and they get the yeah buts, and they're going to hear your story and they're going to be like, yeah, but not in my market. Yeah, but that was a while back. I'm going to argue that people are still people and leadership is still leadership. But take us back to your Mercedes store, I'm not sure how many years ago.
Those many years ago.
Oh, those many years ago. It was 60 or 70 years. No. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. But number one of the most profitable dealerships in the United States.
The most
profitable dealership in the United States. And number two, and probably maybe more impressive, you had zero turnover.
Less than 3%.
Less than 3% turnover in your dealership.
Annually.
So you've set the bar pretty high for people coming on this podcast. So walk us through that. Like, what did that look like? Why, 0.3% turnover, or even 3%, whatever. I mean, how does that work? Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through that? How you empowered your people, led your people? Obviously, we don't have hours because you probably could write multiple books, but just take us through that process.
Well, it all, you're going to love hearing this. And it's not surprising. This is not novel. This isn't something where somebody's going to run their car, hopefully, into a pole as I say something prophetic. It's a matter of leadership, right? And it didn't start with me, honestly. Bill Smythe, who was the patriarch of that store, it really started with him. And he was somebody who was the quintessential gentleman, led by example. There's things I'll never forget. I'll never, ever wash out of my mind. I'll probably, in 20 years, forget my own name, but I will not forget lessons that Bill Smythe taught me. And one of those things, they're just little things. I remember that we'd go walk around the dealership, and if there was garbage, he wouldn't ask anybody to pick it up. He picked it up. When he went by the customer lounge, he straightened out the magazines. He said hello to everybody. And, we had at one time early on, maybe 125, 130 employees. That swelled up to 350 plus, 353 to be exact. And one of the things he taught me was, you got to get out of your office and wander around every day. And I felt like so unproductive, Tim, because I felt like if I'm not doing something, that has to do with revenue generation, I'm not being productive. Of course, we have that awful term in this business and a lot of businesses where you have productive and non-productive employees. That simply, of course, means productive, meaning variably comped, revenue generating, versus non-producing, revenue producing. But terrible term. But I just felt like I wasn't being productive. And he taught me quite to the contrary. Having the opportunity to walk around, to speak to people. And he would also say this. He said, never talk to people about work when you walk around. Talk to them about them. Talk to them about their passions. Talk to them about their family, about their kid's soccer game. Get to know them as human beings. And it's a tough position, as you know, leadership. It's that old saying, it's lonely at the top. It is lonely at the top at times, because as a leader, you can't bitch down. You can only bitch up. And there's a point where if you get to the top of leadership, look up. There's nobody there. So that's why it's so critical to have kind of a council, if you were, a strong network of people you admire and you respect. But long story boring, he created a culture. He created a fantastic foundation. Second thing is his son, Michael, who decided he didn't want to be in the car business long term, and hence why I ended up where I ended up. But Michael made a decision that also was important. And by the way, for anybody listening, I think it's important that we slow down and we stop and listen to things in between. Like, it's almost like read between the lines. We'll listen in between some of the words. So the patriarch set that ground level of foundation of kindness, respect, consideration, all of those things. Michael came along and saw an opportunity to bring in somebody by the name of Lou Tice, Tim, Pacific Institute out of Seattle. Extraordinary family, extraordinary organization. Him and his wife, Diane, took in at-risk kids that were born to people that were addicted to crack, for example, kids that were dropped between the cracks, kids that were 11, 12, 15, not just, hey, I'm going to adopt a cute little 6-month-old baby. They took all of them. And it was very difficult. And at the time, Diane even was battling cancer, which, here's another lesson. she was told by not one, but not two. I remember Lou telling us this, that it was terminal. It was stage 4 cancer. And she was told to get her affairs in order. Diane lived 20 years after that, by the way. The power of the mind is extraordinary. And when people tell me, like you said, oh, I don't buy it, or there was a different time, different place, I just would love to remind all of us that when we think things are unimaginable, it turns out they're oftentimes only unimaginable to us in that moment. Because the reality is, until and unless we can see it, we can see ourselves doing it, the human brain is wired in such a way that we will not pursue anything that we will not think that we can make happen. So there's actually a term for that called self-efficacy. So bottom line, great foundation. I was brought in to, frankly, it was a little bit of a country club environment. And I was brought in to help, along with other people, raise the ceiling on the place. So, we ended up becoming a top 5 Mercedes volume store in the country. We went from doing 130 cars a month total to 500 cars a month. Our front line only can handle 23 cars, by the way. It was a difficult situation, 3.9 acres. Grew our technician staff from about 35 to 107. Fixed gross from about 700 grand to 2.3, 2.4 million a month in fixed gross. Net to sales over 10. And most importantly, everybody wanted to talk about the profit. I wanted to talk about the people, because those people that foundation was built on, those people that we served every single day, those people that we were so obsessed with creating this incredible work culture, sales culture, client culture. That's what really ultimately paid the dividends. The money, the 29 plus million in net, was a byproduct of leadership, a byproduct of culture, and a byproduct of taking care of our people. And that, I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, allowed this incredible team of people to be able to go out and have equal obsession with helping our customers.
No, it's incredible. We all go through, I think a key, and even in my own life, is I sit and listen, and we've had some incredible humans thus far. And obviously even today on this talk, I have to, call myself in check sometimes. Because even today, I got a migraine. I had 2 things that didn't go my way. Had one thing that went, you're constantly juggling as a leader. But at the same time, you have to, because we're all human. There's nobody that goes through life unscathed, right? There's nobody that goes through life without, you're either here or there, or you're at the top of the mountain, you're at the bottom of the valley, you're getting ready to go back up. Like, it's a constant. And I do believe that it is an art, and it takes special people. And I have to work on that every day, because you when bad things happen, when you're in front of your people, it's showtime. When you're in front of your, you can be struggling, but like you said, you look up, and who are you looking up to? These people are looking up to you. They need that calm leader, that during whatever storm. I mean, this industry has gone through, obviously, the 2008, 2009 cash for clunkers. Oh my gosh, the world's going to end. And during the pandemic, from best profitability to everybody's chasing acronyms now, trying to get their statements, back to where they were 2 years ago. So we have these ebbs and flows, and we do need leaders that pour into people. I heard someone say one time that, and I think this is and I heard it years ago. Can't even remember who said it. It is incredible what happens when you start chasing significance in your people's lives. Then success comes. So chasing significance, and again, easier said than done. It's easy for me as the old car dog sitting at the desk, how many ups, how many, how many demos, but at the same time, it is miraculous when you pour into your people about what things that they care about. Everything changes. That is just absolutely so true.
Tim, it's interesting that you bring that up. These things that those of us that have been in the business 20, 30, 40, for me, 45 years, things, we've seen some things, we've gone through some things, and you learn some lessons from that. One of those is that, hey, we're still standing, right? When Ford and GM thought they were going to take over the dealer network, or when Black Monday happened in 1987, or when you had the recession, as you remember, in 08, right? E-com was going to ruin things. Social media was going to ruin things for us. Uber was going to destroy new cars. We're still standing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one. But the other thing is this, I think it's easy to forget, or maybe even just not think about the fact that anybody that's less than, say, 38 years old, they've never been through any kind of turmoil or challenge. I'm not saying in their life, I'm saying in the car business, because before 2008, I mean, come on, credit was easy. And after you came after 2009, since then, I mean, we've been on normally bull markets historically last about 7 years. And this thing is like nearly double that. So from 2009 until, frankly, the end of the pandemic and the chip shortage, it's been a pretty good time. Credit's been easy. Homes have been inexpensive. Interest rates are cheap. Gas is cheap. It's just, there hasn't been a whole lot of headwinds. And then all of a sudden, post-pandemic, depending on the franchise, it started happening either late 21 or late 22. And everybody, sans Toyota and Lexus, at this point, has been punched in the face. And so if you think about it, anybody under 38's never had experience having to navigate a boat through bad waters. And so I think it's important, again, from a leadership perspective, that anybody that has the opportunity, first of all, to be kind enough to people to understand when people don't get things done, it's either a lack of ability or lack of will, right? If it's a lack of ability, we coach them. Lack of will, different conversation. But kindness matters, respect matters, dignity matters, and development matters. So taking the time to develop our people that have not been through those storms, I think is incredibly important right now. I just got off the phone with a dealer group I work with a lot, and they don't have a single GM in a single store that has ever had to weather a storm before. And so they're just trying to figure things out as they're going through things in real time. It's tough for a lot of dealers out there.
Yeah, it is. To that note, the dealers that have that incredible culture, that have those leadership skills, that empower. I love when Maxwell, and we've talked about it many times on this podcast. One of my favorite books that he wrote is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and the law of attraction, and then the law of duplication. The law of attraction, okay, this guy's doing something different. Everybody knows, every town has that store, right? Atlanta has that store or a couple stores, that everybody wants to either run from or run to.
Or emulate,
yeah, and those types of leaders. In your travels, David, obviously you speak all over the country. You're a consultant to a lot of dealer groups. Is there a common, what are you seeing? What in your words with the leadership, good, bad, ugly, good, whatever that you were seeing? You travel probably as much, if not more, than I do. Is there a constant theme, a common denominator that you are seeing, or is it just all over the board? I'm just curious. And again, this is unrehearsed, unplanned. I'm just asking because I know you travel quite a bit, and a lot of people look to you for your leadership and guidance and consulting them to navigate through this.
So I'll start with this. You mentioned something about leaders don't panic, right? Nobody wants to have a leader that panics. I was sharing with somebody fairly recently that when my 37-year-old was born, I have a daughter who'll be 41 in a couple of weeks, Elise, and my son Trey's 37. And then I took about 27 years off to rest, and I have two young sons, Jackson, who's 10, and Jagger, who's 8. I was kind of hoping that one of the older ones, if I waited long enough, they would raise the younger ones. But alas, didn't happen. But he had a lot of respiratory issues. And so we found ourselves in ERs on multiple occasions, unfortunately. And it was really interesting to me that when you go into an ER, anybody who's ever been to an ER, especially with their kids, will notice a lack of emotion. It's interesting, isn't it? So you come in and you're frantic. Somebody's arm's been cut off. They can't breathe, whatever. And these guys seemingly have no emotion, no compassion whatsoever. Hey, could you just, I know you can't breathe, but can you just fill out the form? I understand you can't breathe. He's turning blue. Yeah, but can I just check that box, fill out that form, sign that? And then they tell you, just relax, sit there and enjoy some of these diseased magazines that 1,000 people have looked at who are ill, and we'll go back and do what we do. And I used to think, man, that's so lacking of compassion and rude, and I didn't get it. And then I've been on many flights like you have, and I've had a couple emergency landings on commercial flights, nothing horrific, but just, engine went out one time, another time it got struck by lightning. You had to take it down in McAllen, Texas, instead of landing in Houston. And of course, the pilot, if you're ever in that situation, comes on and says, "Hello, everybody. This is the pilot speaking. I hope you're enjoying your flight." Right out of the left window there is the Grand Canyon. That's heading. That's where we're about to crash. We've lost our engine. No need to worry. I've been through this in the simulator. Yeah. Just enjoy your incredibly large bag of peanuts, and we'll be on the ground shortly. Not where it says on the ticket, but hey, at least we'll land safely. You don't want leaders to panic. You can't, right? So let me circle back to your question. It starts at the top, right? Secondly, you got to remember from the very top, and then it works its way down. Each and every one of those people, first and foremost, Tim, has to be a gatekeeper of culture. You cannot let anybody into your store that is going to erode or decay a culture that you say is important to you. If you want to deliver spectacular experiences to your clients, if you want to have a culture where people want to come to work, I think of the Beaux-Arts organization where it takes 2 years to get an entry-level position, where most stores, they can't find people. Well, why is that? Well, because people are dying to go to work there rather than dying to leave to find a different opportunity. So number one, it does start at the top. Number two, you have to make sure that you've got a formalized recruiting plan. And are you the kind of place that people want to come to work for, right? 3, are you only looking for people when somebody terminates, when they leave on their own or you terminate them? Or are you looking for people? I always say, don't recruit to replace, recruit to upgrade. Constantly be looking for ways to upgrade your team, your staff. Another thing is development. Their common theme in the best organizations is development. Another one is they don't operate on their gut. And I know some people are going to say, "Hey, I've been doing this for 35 years and I've been doing this and I'm an amazing," And interestingly, 99% of those people don't ever have the resume or the results to back up that statement. But that notwithstanding, guys, it's 2024. Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Starbucks, FedEx, NVIDIA. Pick a company, any company you admire, respect, and is valuable. They are data-centric and they are process-driven. Data-centric, process-driven. If you want a theme, you've got leadership. They protect their culture above all. They are obsessed with their clients. They don't ever let somebody come into the store that's going to weaken the culture of that team. And they are data-centric and they are process-driven. When you combine those with the initial things I mentioned and development, it's a home run. Those organizations that you either fear or you hate or you wish you could be like them, I promise you, those are the hallmarks of those organizations.
No, that is incredible. In fact, I'm taking notes myself. I love the gatekeeper of culture. So I think that, and there's several dealers that I know personally that are dear friends of mine that hired people that maybe it was a not so great hire and they weren't that gatekeeper of the particular store's culture, and unfortunately they didn't last. How do you I've had bad hires. I'm sure, what do you do? The old saying, hire slow, fire fast, right? Is there, at your Mercedes store, even now, like, have you seen, sometimes we miss, right? Everyone's what I call Miss America on a job interview or a software demo, right? Oh,
Sure.
you haven't seen my dashboard. Oh, I'm the guy. And you try to really ask great questions, and you get the ones you try not to ask, what are your weaknesses? And I work too hard and I care too much and all the other crap. So, how do you, as you're building that bench, right? As you're formalizing your recruiting plan, as you word it, how do you continue to make sure that you get the right people and less? I don't know if anybody's batting 1,000 here. I'm sure not. But how do you personally encourage to make sure that, we're hiring the right people?
So a couple things, and this is something that I'm really proud of. You'll never hear me kind of brag about the sales and the money or anything like that. Those things are byproducts. But yeah, I'm proud of that. The fact that we had under 3% employee turnover. I'm proud. The last time I've lost an employee, Tim? Ask me the last time I've lost an employee.
When's the last time you lost an employee?
Early 2000s. I haven't lost an employee since then. I didn't lose one at my software company. I haven't lost one. Now I haven't lost one. I'm trying to remember the last time I lost one I think I went nearly 20 years without losing anybody. You can't do that unless you bring the people on. You can't do that unless, we had all of our managers, the senior managers go to a leadership training with Disney and learn how to hire with Disney. And one of the things they did is they made sure that every hire, when it came down to the end, that they had to be interviewed by the three most senior managers, or 3 managers, department managers, and 2 others. If one of the 3 said less than 100%, you don't bring them on. I know that's painful. Mm-hmm. A lot of people want to hire a person. We want to hire the person, right? You don't want a person to raise your kids. You don't want a person to teach your kids. You don't want a person to work with your mom to sell them a car. You want the person, right? You don't want a person to marry your son or daughter. You want the person. Yeah. Now, does that mean there's only one person? No. But it means that they have hallmarks in and of themselves. I mentioned hallmarks of stores. Let's talk about hallmarks of people. Okay, they're self-driven. They're self-actualizing. They're kind. They're humble. They're respectful. They've got work ethic like nobody's business. And so there's something called an X factor, which all of us have heard forever. Oh, they've got the X factor. What is the X factor? Well, I've come to believe that the X factor turns out to be EQ, emotional quotient, because people that have very high EQs have exceptional abilities to be able to calm a situation, to be able to navigate through tough times, to be able to handle, adversity and obstacles. They also are prone to assess themselves. They're the ones that are going to, by the time, if they have an off month and you want to give them a good talking to, they've already had that talk with themselves. They don't look at the clock. They're self-driven, self-actualizing, and prone to doing the right things. So I think EQ has been missed. I keep telling my dealers, could you please listen to the statement? Can we please have this be the last day that we're surprised by things that were 100% predictable? When you hire based on experience alone, why do we do that? Do you have experience in sales, Tim? Yeah, absolutely. 10 years. Great. What have you been averaging? 9 quarters a month. So you have 10 years of experience of being average. Okay, yeah. Oh, I want you. Please come aboard, Tim, and help reduce the value of my company. Please. No, why do you want that? I would rather hire potential, Tim. I'd rather hire people that have high EQ and have that drive and that potential to want to get better. Because if I can do that, and I could build a team of people that genuinely care about each other. These people care about you, Tim, even though you hired them. They care about you. They care about the people that they work with, and they care about your clients. So I think that when we focus on those things, and again, we started with people and leadership. Now we're over here on the associate side, and it's also about people, of course. And last thing, I think it's important to keep in mind, not all managers are leaders and not all leaders are managers. Some of the best leaders you have in your organizations around the country, they're not managers, but they're movers, shakers. They inspire people, and people around them, both managers and associates, listen to them.
Yeah. That is so good. I know it's good when I take a legal pad full of notes and a short podcast. So this has been phenomenal. We're probably going to have to do a round 2 as we land the plane. I just wanted to thank you for taking just a few moments. So many golden. I love Gatekeeper of Culture. Are you, ma'am, sir, are you a gatekeeper of culture in your business, in your dealership? Are you setting a standard? Doesn't mean you're perfect, but are you setting a standard to where you're listening to your people? I love walking around the dealership. In fact, the hardest part with me leaving the dealership, and you did the exact same thing. You left the dealership world, you went into the software world. I've done the same thing. And the difference is I'm in this office and we have, 250 people around the country. And I can't put my arms around them, can't love on them, often. So that part's difficult. So you have to text, you have to call, you have to, do these types of things to keep them engaged and let them know that you do care. And anyway, I think it's so important. David, thank you for taking the time. I know you're extremely busy, and I learned a lot today. Hopefully you learned a lot today too. Thank you for tuning. Yeah.
Wasn't that great? Isn't that crazy, Tim? You can't teach people without learning. You can't give a compliment without feeling better about yourself. I mean, that's the cool thing about life. So, and one last thing, just don't be fooled, anybody out there. Don't be intoxicated or tempted to hire somebody because, hey, they sell 30 cars a month. That 30 car a month person can cost you 50 cars a month and a whole lot of culture and morale. So that's why this stuff that Tim's talking about is so critical. And I appreciate you bringing this important subject and adding this conversation to the industry. So wish you and your team of 250 all the best. Wish you and your new granddaughter, your newly expanded family, all the best. And thanks for having me on.
Awesome. I love you, brother. Thank you so much. We'll have to connect at the next event. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to tune in. Look, I'm just a hillbilly from Kentucky that loves on people, and I'm just trying to give back. I'm on the back nine, as they say, and I just want to pour into people's lives. If you can take one thing out of one of these podcasts and make your business better, make your life better. We talk about gratitude all the time. David spoke about it. What are you waking up grateful? All the things that we're talking about, man, that is what life's about. What we say always on TimTalks, no one is smarter than everyone. We will just continue to get better together. We will see you soon.